Hey everybody, it's Nicole. And today is Self-Care Sunday. And I was requested by a subscriber to kind of give an overview of what fibromyalgia is, um, and how you would get diagnosed, and then I guess more of a general idea of how you would get diagnosed, because obviously I'm not a doctor. I'm not a rheumatologist. That's usually the doctor that you would see, the specialist you would see to get diagnosed for or to find out whether or not you have fibromyalgia. I believe your primary care physician can also diagnose to see if you have fibromyalgia, but my care that I get for my fibromyalgia does come from a rheumatologist. So I see her on a regular basis. I am on medication for it. So I was asked to go over just a general overview of how one would get diagnosed, and then of course what it is like for me, because obviously everybody is different. And so what I would experience isn't necessarily what somebody else who has the same disease would experience on a regular basis. And I want to preface this with, I am not a doctor, I am not a rheumatologist, I am not a primary care physician, a family doctor, or any sort of medical doctor of any sort. So you can kind of take like all of this information with a grain of salt, with the exception of what I guess how the disease affects me on a personal basis. So first off, I want to say, if you could, I would really appreciate it if you would watch the video from beginning to end. It would mean a great deal to me, because it helps educate people on what it's like to have this particular incurable disease. Not a lot of this particular disease is understood, and there's a lot of misconceptions about fibromyalgia. There's a lot, or I wouldn't say a lot. There are doctors out there who think that it's a throwaway diagnosis. In other words, if a doctor can't figure out what's wrong with you, they're going to just kind of stick you in this category of, you have fibromyalgia, you have pain. We can't figure out where this pain is coming from, so we're just going to say you have fibromyalgia. But it is truly a real disease. There is no cure for it, unfortunately, and it is something that is really difficult to deal with. And I will be referencing, I took down a lot of notes for myself, so if you see me look at something, it's because I'm looking at my notes so that I can kind of reference back to it, so that you guys are able to understand a little bit of how it was diagnosed, what it's like, and then of course possible ways one could treat it, how it is dealt with, and then of course I will then try to explain to you what it's like for me to live with it on a day-to-day basis, because yes, it is a disease that I live with on a day-to-day basis. And it is a very difficult thing to live with on a day-to-day basis, because it does make things very, very difficult. Some days are better than others. And so first off, we will start off with kind of a general idea of who is the group that normally tends to get fibromyalgia, which is usually women. And it's usually accompanied with sometimes with tension headaches, temporal mandibular joint problems. So it's something to do with your jaw here. I do have TMJ. I have had TMJ for over 20 years. It is something that is extremely painful. It makes it difficult to eat. Sometimes my jaw will lock open, sometimes it will lock shut. And then it also causes so that when I chew, I can hear clicking in my ears sometimes when I am chewing. Some people experience IBS. And then the other unfortunate part is that with a lot of chronic illnesses or chronic health problems, people also deal with mental health problems, because it does affect their way of life. It changes the way they used to live prior to being diagnosed with whatever it is, and in this case, fibromyalgia. Some people will develop anxiety, some people will develop depression, some people will develop panic attacks. And then the other thing is there is no cure. There is medication that will manage it. I take hydroxychloroquine every single day, and that manages it. Ever since I was diagnosed with it, that is something that every single morning, that's a part of my medication regimen. I take it along with a myriad of other medications that I have. Symptoms that are associated with fibromyalgia. Number one is, and this is the big one, is it's dull, constant pain, and it's widespread, that lasts for 3 months or more. And to be considered widespread, that means that it is on both sides of your body. So it would have to be on, like, the right and left shoulder, the right, the left and the right elbow, and then the top and the bottom half of your body. The other thing is chronic fatigue, or sleep problems. So some people will have sleep apnea, or some sort of sleep disorder or sleep dysfunction. Some people develop restless leg syndrome. I don't have sleep apnea. I have had several sleep tests done. I have neither. I don't have restless leg syndrome. I do not have sleep apnea, but I do have sleep issues. I do have, it doesn't matter. I could probably sleep for 18 hours or 12 hours or whatever, and I will still feel completely and utterly exhausted. And the other thing is fibro fog or brain fog, and it's kind of a running joke where like you'll like put the cereal in the refrigerator and like the milk will end up in the pantry, or you can't remember where you've put your keys and then you find your keys in the refrigerator. So that's another thing, and I attribute that to the lack of sleep, and the inability to get a good night's rest. So, like for example, last night I did not sleep well at all. I think I got maybe 2 or 3 hours of sleep, and I am completely exhausted. So I'm pretty sure tonight I will sleep semi well. And as they say, you cannot catch up with sleep, but I'm sure I will probably sleep better than I did last night. So they say that there are several causes that will trigger fibromyalgia. So one of the things that I've been told is that your brain, the wires will get crossed as to how it reacts to pain. So essentially, something that should be painful may not be painful, and something that or something that should be painful isn't painful, and then vice versa. Sometimes it can be where it's just something that shouldn't hurt hurts. For me, it's something that shouldn't hurt hurts. Like for example, when sometimes when something itches, like say my arm, and I scratch it, it will hurt a lot. On a scale of 1 to 10, I would say I would give it like maybe an 8. It will hurt a lot, and there's nothing I can do about it. And then the other thing is that the your nerves will overreact to those pain signals. And then the other thing is they say that sometimes it's genetic. As far as I'm aware, nobody in my family has fibromyalgia. So I'm the only one in the family that has fibromyalgia. And then another thing is they say sometimes it's due to infections that you may have had. I have heard recently that some people have developed fibromyalgia due to, you know, I don't know, like the flu or whatever. So, I mean, I don't know. They say, and I'm getting this information from the Mayo Clinic's website, so they're saying that it could possibly be from infections. And then the other thing is that you could possibly develop it from physical or emotional events. I think for me, it's these two things. It's the fact that the wires in my brain has been crossed, where the things that shouldn't hurt hurts, and then the other thing is due to physical or emotional events. I used to work a lot, where I was putting in long hours on a regular basis when I was working. I used to work for a fairly large trucking company in their corporate accounting department, and I dealt with a lot of money, and so I put in long hours, and so there was that. And then, of course, I then moved into insurance, and I was a business analyst for that particular company, and then I then moved over to being a commercial underwriter. And I didn't necessarily put in a lot of hours, but it was a very high stress job, so I burnt myself out really quickly in these jobs, because they were very, very stressful jobs, because both of those jobs had deadlines at the end of the month for the insurance position, and then for the accounting position, it was during the middle of the month. You had to meet specific deadlines in order to get all of the cash that was incoming in and done, and apply to all of the accounts that needed to be taken care of, so that they had the available credit, so that they could continue to ship the items that needed to be shipped across the US. So yes, I had a lot of high stress jobs. So for me, that's what I guess as the reason why I developed fibromyalgia. That's just me guessing. I don't know. Like I said, I'm not a doctor. So then next, so to get diagnosed, I believe you can get diagnosed from your primary care physician or rheumatologist. I did see my primary care physician first, because I had noticed this really dull ache that was painful. It wasn't like, oh, this is not a big deal. It was very painful. And so she did some rudimentary tests, and then she referred me to a rheumatologist who did a little bit more in-depth testing, along with some blood work. The rheumatologist did what is called an 18 trigger point test on your body. So what they do is they press on certain points on your body and ask you, okay, does it hurt here? Does it hurt here? And then they do it on the opposite side, so that it's symmetrical to see, because like I said, it needs to be, as far as quote unquote widespread, it needs to be on both sides. Although according to Mayo Clinic's website, they say that rheumatology does not necessarily need to do this tender point exam anymore. But my rheumatologist and my primary care physician, they did do this trigger point test on me to determine whether or not I did have fibromyalgia. So both of my rheumatologist and my primary physician both did these tests. They checked my finger joints. They pressed on my shoulders, my elbows, my knees. They checked the ankles, my toes, all of it, all the possible joints you could possibly think of. And then also my rheumatologist also checked my skin. She also checked to see if there was any visible swelling. And then she also did do some ultrasound to check to see if there was any swelling that way as well. So, and then at that point, after that exam, she did make the determination that I did have fibromyalgia. So it wasn't this long term, like long process for me to get diagnosed for fibromyalgia. I know some people go through a long process of getting diagnosed for fibromyalgia, and for other chronic illnesses, I'm still actually going through getting tested for other chronic illnesses that they don't know what's going on. For example, I faint, don't know why. It's called what's called syncope. They can't figure out why I just all of a sudden will like pass out. And it's not that I have stood up too quickly or sat down too quickly. I could be standing in the middle of the living room or in the middle of the kitchen, and I will sometimes hit the floor. No idea why. They don't know. They have no idea why that has happened. So, which has led me to now where I use a cane to make sure that I keep myself safe in case there isn't anybody around to catch me if I do fall. But that's not a part of fibromyalgia. When they do the tender point exam, it's doing left and right upper region checking, which includes your shoulders, arms, and or jaw. So it's like here, like this here. She did, would press here, and she would ask me if this hurt. And then the lower region, she would press on my hips. And then, the actual legs and my knees, my ankles, all that stuff, she would press and ask, does this hurt? And then of course I would always get, how painful is it on a scale of 1 to 10, 0 being it's fine, and then 10 being the worst pain you've ever felt in your entire life. And if there are anybody out there who does deal with chronic pain, I'm sure you have your baseline as far as what is okay, or what is something you can deal with as far as your pain level. Mine is a 5. I'm okay with that, because unfortunately people with chronic pain, it won't ever go away. There will never be a 0. I would love it if there was a 0, but I have learned and I have come to the realization that there will never be a 0. And then, my chronic pain is and has been and continues to be so bad that some days, like I said, it's tough to get out of bed. I actually, it was so bad that I had a double mastectomy to manage that chronic pain, and that was a 3-step surgery. And just a little TMI, it wasn't due to cancer, it was for chronic pain, because I was in that much pain. I could not deal with it. So I had double mastectomy. I had to heal after that. Then they had to put in skin expanders, which was, out of all the 3 surgeries, was by far the worst out of all of the surgeries. And then I had to go through, I had to go in every 2 weeks to expand the skin, and it was awful. I will not lie, it was awful. I would leave the appointment in tears. But it was something that I knew I needed to do to get the pain under control, because I knew the end result would help me long term. And then after we did, my plastic surgeon and I decided, okay, this is where we want to stop. Then I had to go back in for a third surgery to complete the last surgery, which was putting the implants in, and that was done, let's see, not last year but the year before. So having to deal with that, along with dealing with having to deal with that along with the pandemic, and to deal with the fibromyalgia, and then also to deal with living with my mother was rough. So I wouldn't wish it on anybody. You add the anxiety, you add the OCD, the PTSD, and all of that. It was hard. So, but I will tell you, after having that done, it has reduced some of the chronic pain. So, that's one less thing that I have to worry about. And it's not, obviously it's just a matter of the fibromyalgia is something that is pretty much well under control. I see my rheumatologist, I believe, on a 6-month basis. I do blood work. She checks everything, like my liver, my CBC, all of that stuff. There's a long list of blood work that she has me do to make sure that the medications that she has me on is doing the job. And then if she feels that she needs to make any changes, she will. But thus far, she hasn't had to make any changes. So that's one way as far as treatment goes, is the hydroxychloroquine. The other thing is, of course, self-care. Did I say self-care? So that's the other big thing. And then, of course, making sure you try to keep a fairly well-balanced diet. I've had to change certain things because I've had some digestive issues pop up, so I've had to change that. Sometimes over-the-counter pain relievers help. For me, it doesn't. So I've had to rely on other pain medications, which aren't necessarily the norm. And then some physicians prescribe antidepressants, anti-seizure medications. There's also physical therapy, occupational therapy, and then, of course, I recommend counseling, or seeing a therapist or psychologist or psychiatrist. And then, of course, stress management, which goes hand in hand with self-care. And then stress management also goes hand in hand with sleep management. I think it's very important to have a very good sleep hygiene regimen, or a sleep, I guess you could say, sleep routine. So, like, you say, every day I am going to go to bed at 10 o'clock. And that means I am in bed at 10 o'clock, not I'm getting ready for bed at 10 o'clock. excuse me. So that means, you know, you've uh, uh, brush your teeth, you know, taking your meds if you need to take in your medications. If you take melatonin, take your melatonin, whatever it is that you need to do. You know, if you do aromatherapy, all of that stuff. You do everything that needs to do, and that when 10 o'clock rolls around, that you are in bed and you are ready to go to sleep. I do suggest an app called Calm. I am fortunate enough to get it for free from my provider. I like their stories segment on the app. There are some stories that I enjoy more than others. There's actually a couple, like I think one that's read by Ava Green that I really enjoy, and there's a couple more that are read by, and I don't remember who it is that reads it. So it's kind of like a short story that they read to you, but it's in a very calming voice, so it helps you sleep. Or if you like to listen to music, do that to help you fall asleep. And then exercise. Don't overdo it. That's another thing. Don't overdo it, please, because if you do, you will pay for it. Trust me. And I think for me, that's what happened yesterday, is that I overdid it. So then I got overly tired, so I wasn't able to sleep so well yesterday. Another thing you could try is acupuncture, massage therapy, if you can afford it, or if your medical insurance provides coverage for it. That is something that you could look into. Some people like to do yoga. Yoga is not something that I particularly enjoy, or Tai Chi. So that's kind of a rundown of like diagnosis, possible treatments, and then, you know, and stuff like that. Now, as far as for me, what it feels like for me. So for me, it feels like an immense amount of pain. My joints feel inflamed. There's a lot of weakness. I have difficulty opening things, closing things. I mean, some things as simple as turning on a faucet, turning on the faucet to take a shower, becomes difficult, where I have to ask my husband to help. Or like, I've got 2 cats, and so sometimes I give them like wet food. So like, you know, ripping the foil off of the wet food, or the lid to the metal container. Sometimes I can't do it, so I will have to like use a spoon to get the thing going to open it. Or And then the other thing that's the biggest for me is learning when to stop. That even though I feel like, okay, I can do it all, I can do everything that I want to do pre-fibromyalgia. And so, and I need to learn that I shouldn't be doing that, because if I do, then tomorrow I am going to be exhausted and in a lot of pain. And I need that. The other thing is also to be able to learn to reach out to people to say I need help. So that's one thing. And then the other thing is it also affects me mentally because I am not the same person that I was 5 years ago. I was always a lot of my friends would always say like I was like the mom who could do everything, and I'm not. I can't do everything anymore. I try to, but I can't. And so luckily I have my husband and my kids who are able to help me. So they will, do whatever it is that I may need help with, whether it's, making dinner or just helping themselves to whatever it is for breakfast or for lunch or whatever it is. My husband has picked up the whole laundry situation, or running errands, so stuff like that. And then as far as the pain, if I don't keep on top of my pain, that's not, I will not be in a good place. So what I do for myself is I set a timer on my phone, because I'm allotted so much pain medication every 6 hours. So what I do on my phone is I set a timer on my phone for 5.5 hours, so that when that 5.5 hour alarm comes up, I sit there and I ask myself, do I need my pain medication now? Because it will take a half an hour for the medication to kick in for the 6 hours. And so if I don't need it, I won't take it. So it's a combination of managing my pain. It's a trying to remember that I'm not the same person, and then trying to remember that it's okay to grieve that I'm not the same person, asking for help, and that I don't have to cook dinner all the time, all of that stuff. And then the other thing too is that I do have people to lean on. And that also the big thing is that I am here for you to educate you on what it's like to have what I have. So you can understand what it's like to have fibromyalgia or to have chronic pain, to let you understand and kind of get a like sneak peek or a little like window into what it's like for people like me, that it's not so easy, that I need my handicap placard, and don't park in the handicap stall because it's there for people like me. Don't use the handicap stall in the restroom because it's there for people like me. When you're parking next to the handicap stall, and that's next to the stall, there's the stall that has all the lines in it. There's a reason why there's that spot there. It's because it's there to make it accessible for people who use wheelchairs, so it's accessible for them, or who need to use walkers or cane or something similar to that, to make it easier for them to get out of their vehicles. And so I want you to be able to understand that I am the same as you, in a lot of aspects. I'm still me. I'm still Nicole. I still can do a lot of the things that I used to do, but then there are certain things I can't do. And I need you to, and I want to be able to educate you with that information. So I hope that this is kind of giving you a little bit of understanding of what it's like to have fibromyalgia, and the amount of difficulties it is to have this incurable disease, and how difficult it is, how hard it is, and yet how it doesn't define who we are, but that that I want you to understand that I don't also want to be treated differently. I just need a little bit of help. That's all. Just a little bit of help. That's all. And if I do need help, I will ask. Or if you see me struggling, offer. Hey, I see, that maybe you're struggling a little bit. Did you need a little bit of help? Stuff like that. But one thing that really irks me is when I see people who don't have either the handicap placard or the handicap plates that are parked in a handicap stall. Please don't park there. And if you don't need to use the handicap bathroom stall, please don't use it, because I use that stall because I use the handlebar in that stall. It's in there for a reason, because it helps me use the restroom, because I use a cane to get around. If I don't have to walk long distances, I don't always use my cane, which is probably not a very good idea, but fibromyalgia, and the other chronic illnesses and mental health illnesses or mental health problems that I have does not define who I am. I am still me. I still am me. And I still hope that you like me for me. And will still, still treat me the same. So on that note, I hope that I've given you a little bit of information that can help you understand what it's like to have fibromyalgia, and what it's like for me personally. And like I said, I will reiterate this again. I am not a doctor. I'm not a primary care physician. I'm not a rheumatologist of any sort. I'm not a medical professional. So as far as treatment plans or anything of that sort, diagnoses or whatever, if you think any of this is going on with you, please consult with your own physician. If you want to talk to me about fibromyalgia and what it's like on how it affects me, hey, DM me and I am happy to discuss it with you. But anything outside of that, as far as medical advice, please talk to your own doctor. Otherwise, I would appreciate any likes, subscribes, and shares. And I will see you tomorrow. I have some fun things. We're going to do some unboxing. I've got some crochet hooks that I have been dying to unbox to share with you guys. And I will be opening them up and sharing them with you. And then we'll see how the rest of the week goes, because there's some things that I want to make that I actually want to put in some of the resin. And it's going to be crochet items, yarn items that I'm going to be putting into resin. So we're going to have some fun with that. I'm thinking granny squares and resin, because you will be surprised with what you can put in resin. You can even put jelly beans, you can put Jolly Ranchers, you can put pretty much anything and it will preserve it. So until tomorrow, I will see you later. And yeah, uh, again, subscribe, like, share, comment below. If you have any ideas for anything for my resin items, please put them in the comments below. And I look forward to seeing everybody tomorrow. Bye bye.